October 24th, 1942. One man stands between 3,000 enemy soldiers and the collapse of the American war in the Pacific. This isn't a movie script. It's a patch of muddy, jungle-choked ground on an island called Guadalcanal. You are there. You can smell the cordite in the rain. You can feel the ground shake with each mortar blast. The man is Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone, a former truck driver from New Jersey. He's not an officer. He's not from a wealthy family. He's just tough. And tonight, he needs to be tougher than anything the world has ever seen. His orders are simple. Hold this ridge at all costs, because below him lies Henderson Field, the one airstrip that keeps the Marines on this island supplied, reinforced, and alive. If the ridge falls, the airfield is next. If the airfield falls, America could lose the war. It's that simple. So he waits. With his 2 crews of machine gunners, 15 men in total, they listen to the jungle, the strange bird calls that aren't birds, the rustle of leaves that isn't the wind. Then, a sound builds in the darkness, a low chant. It grows louder. Banzai. The first wave hits them, a wall of bodies and bayonets, screaming out of the black. Basilone's 2 Browning M1917 machine guns open up. They are water-cooled, belt-fed monsters. Each one spits 500 rounds a minute. The sound is a physical force, tearing the night apart. For hours, they hold. Wave after wave crashes against their position and breaks. But the enemy keeps coming. Think about that. An endless supply of men determined to die to take your position. Then, disaster. A grenade lands perfectly. One gun section is wiped out. Then the second gun. He goes silent. A jam. In the sudden, terrifying quiet, you can hear the enemy soldiers scrambling in the mud. They are only yards away. The attack hasn't stopped. It's just taking a breath before the final lunge. Basilone doesn't run. He crawls over to the silent gun, his hands finding the hot metal parts by feel. He clears the jam under a hail of bullets. The gun roars back to life. But now, pay attention. His 15 men are down to 2, and the ammunition boxes are nearly empty. The main supply line was cut off an hour ago. To get more ammunition, he would have to run 100 yards. Through terrain, the Japanese now controlled. He looked at his wounded friends. He looked at the last belt of ammunition. And he looked into the darkness where the next wave was forming. What do? Do you abandon your post? Do you leave your men to die? Or do you run straight into the heart of the enemy? You are on an island that God has forgotten. The air is so humid, it feels like you're breathing water. Every surface is slick with mud and rot. This is Guadalcanal, October 1942. The Marines call it the Island of Death. Your home is a muddy foxhole on a ridge, a narrow spine of earth named Lunga Ridge. Below you, in the darkness, is the jungle. And in that jungle, something is moving. You are with Sergeant John Basilone. He and the men of the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, are all that stand between the Japanese forces and the vital Henderson Field airfield. If the airfield falls, the entire island falls. If the island falls, the war in the Pacific could be lost. The men are exhausted, wasted by malaria, dysentery, and a constant gnawing hunger. Their uniforms are rags. Their skin is covered in sores. But they hold the line. They have to. And here's where the story turns. Around 10 p.m. on October 24th, the jungle erupts. It isn't a single sound. It's 1,000 sounds at once. A roar of voices screaming, "Banzai!" The crack of rifles, the thump of mortars. Red and green tracer rounds slice through the torrential rain, painting a horrifying picture of what's coming. Colonel Sendai's 3,000-man regiment is charging your position. 3,000 men against a few hundred. You are outnumbered more than 10 to 1. The first wave hits Bazilone's section like a physical blow. They come from the darkness, a sea of bayonets and shouting men. Bazilone's 2 heavy machine gun crews open fire. The Browning M1917S are monsters. Water-cooled, belt-fed, they can fire 600 rounds a minute. They tear into the charging lines, mowing men down in swathes. But they just keep coming. One of Bazilone's gun crews is wiped out. A grenade, a flash of light, and then silence from that position. The Japanese swarm over them. Now the entire attack is focused on Bazilone's single remaining gun. The gunner is killed. The assistant is wounded. Basilone shoves the dead man aside and takes control of the weapon himself. He fires and fires. The barrel guard on the machine gun begins to glow a dull red, then a brighter cherry red. It's so hot it could melt. He keeps firing. Then the worst sound a machine gunner can hear. Click. The belt is empty. The attack is just feet away. He needs more ammunition, but the supply dump is 200 yards back. Through the dark, through the mud, and through a storm of enemy bullets and shrapnel. Think about that choice. Stay and be overrun in seconds. Or run into almost certain death for a chance to keep fighting. What would you do? Basilone runs. He sprints, hunched low, mud sucking at his boots. Bullets whip past his head. He can hear them sizzle in the rain. He grabs a heavy case of ammunition belts and begins the terrifying journey back. He doesn't just do this once. For the next 48 hours, this becomes his reality. Firing until the gun is empty, then running the gauntlet for more belts. He becomes a one-man supply line, all while commanding his section and fighting off attackers with his Colt 45 pistol. At one point, a jam. A cartridge is stuck. He can't clear it. The Japanese are almost on top of him. He grabs the searing hot barrel with his bare hands, ignoring the blistering pain, and clears the stoppage. The gun roars back to life. His hands are burned to the bone. He doesn't stop. As dawn approaches on the first day, the attack's finally. The ground in front of his position is a carpet of the dead. Hundreds of bodies are piled so high, they create a new wall of defense. He has held. His tiny section of the line has held. But the battle isn't over. It's barely begun. As the sun burns off the morning mist, Basilone and the few survivors see the true cost of their stand. And they hear a new sound approaching from the jungle, a sound that freezes the blood in their veins. It's not the sound of men, it's the sound of grinding metal and powerful engines. How do you fight a tank with a machine gun? The rain doesn't stop. For 2 days, it has turned this corner of Guadalcanal into a slurry of mud and blood. You are here, in a narrow 1,000-yard corridor of jungle. The air is thick enough to taste. You smell the cordite from the machine guns, the wet rot of the jungle floor, and fear. This is the battle for Henderson Field, October 24th, 1942, and everything is about to break. The man next to you is Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone. He commands 2 heavy machine gun sections. Just 15 men against Colonel Sendai's entire Japanese regiment. That's 3,000 soldiers coming straight for you. The attack begins not with a bang, but with a chilling chant that rises from the darkness. Then the jungle erupts. Muzzle flashes stitch patterns into the night. The steady rhythm of your Browning M1917 machine guns is the only thing keeping you alive. It is a wall of lead, a thumping mechanical heartbeat in the chaos. Then, a sound worse than any explosion. Silence. From your left flank, one of Basilón's guns has stopped firing. Its crew is gone, cut down in a spray of Japanese fire. A gap has opened in the perimeter. This is it. The moment the line breaks, the moment you are overrun. But Basilón doesn't shout for a retreat. He does something that defies every instinct for survival. He stands up. He grabs the 90-pound machine gun. Then he hoists the 20-pound tripod. And he runs, directly into the storm of bullets that just killed his men. Think about that for a second. He is carrying over 100 pounds of steel through mud and enemy fire, a human target moving through the dark. When he reaches the fallen gun pit, the bodies of his friends are around him. There is no time for grief. He clears the dead, sets up the gun, and clears the jam with his bare hands. The gun roars back to life. The gap is sealed. For now. But now, a new problem. Ammunition. The guns are hungry, chewing through hundreds of rounds a minute. And the supply lines are cut. The jungle between you and the ammo dump is now crawling with Japanese soldiers who broke through other sections. Here's where the official story gets hard to believe. Basilón looks at another Marine, Private First Class Nash W. Phillips. He tells him to stay put and keep firing. Then Basilón crawls back into the darkness, alone. He fights his way through enemy soldiers with his Colt .45 pistol. He reaches the supplies. Now shoulders 2 crates of ammunition weighing nearly 95 pounds each and begins the impossible journey back. He is a ghost in the jungle, hunted, but he makes it. And not just once. He makes that trip again and again all night, keeping the guns fed while dodging bayonets and grenades. By dawn, the assault intensifies. The Japanese know this is their last chance. They fix bayonets. Officers draw their katanas. This is the banzai charge. 40 soldiers, screaming, charging directly at Basilón's position. It is a medieval horror crashing into an industrial war, a wall of bodies and steel. Basilón's hands are burned from the hot gun barrels. He doesn't flinch. He holds down the trigger, sweeping the gun back and forth. The charge withers under the fire. It breaks. It fails. As the sun finally rises on October 25th, the scene is beyond imagination. The ground is covered with the bodies of nearly 3,000 Japanese soldiers. In front of Basilón's position alone, there are heaps. He personally accounted for at least 38 kills. He fought for 48 hours without sleep, without food, without stopping. He had held the line. He had survived hell. And for this incredible act of valor, the United States Marine Corps would award him the Medal of Honor. They would pull him from the war he refused to leave and give him the one thing he never wanted, a ticket home. The night doesn't just fall here, it suffocates. On Guadalcanal, you hear the enemy before you see them. A whisper of cloth on jungle leaves, a snapped twig. Then, the screams. John Basilón is feeding his heavy machine gun, belt after belt of .30 caliber rounds. The barrel glows a dull, angry red in the pitch black. You could light a cigarette on it. For hours, this sound is the only thing keeping death away. Then a new sound cuts through the chaos. It's a sound worse than the screaming. Silence. To his left, Corporal Dunn's gun has stopped firing. The entire gun pit is quiet. Think about what that means. In a battle defined by noise, the most terrifying thing is the sudden absence of it. The Japanese soldiers, sensing weakness, surge forward. 40 men, a human wave armed with bayonets and a terrifying will to die. They are less than 30 yards away. Basilione's own ammunition is running low, critically low. The main supply line is 200 yards back, through the jungle, through the enemy soldiers who just overran his friends. He has a choice: stay in his fortified position, conserve his rounds, and maybe survive the night. Or do the unthinkable. He doesn't hesitate. He tells the men with him to hold on. Then he grabs a 90-pound machine gun, its metal still searing hot, and hoists it onto his shoulder. Alone, he runs. He sprints into the very darkness that is actively trying to kill him, dodging trees, leaping over the fallen, all while carrying a weapon that weighs half as much as he does. He reaches the supply dump, grabs belts of ammunition, and begins the impossible run back. The air is thick with bullets. He can feel the heat as they zip past his face, but he makes it. He gets the silent gun firing again. He holds the line. The sun finally rises on October 25th, and it reveals a slaughterhouse. Around Basilione's position, the bodies of 38 Japanese soldiers are piled high. Some are within 5 feet of his gun pit. He fought them with his pistol, with a machete, with his bare hands. For nearly 48 hours, he did not sleep. He did not stop. He held. But victory feels like ash in your mouth. You look at the survivors. From his section of 15 men, only 2 others are still standing. 2. The official reports talk about the 3,000 attackers he helped repel. They talk about the Medal of Honor he would receive. Here's the part nobody talks about: the faces of the men who didn't make it, the friends he shared a joke with just hours before. That's the real weight. It's not the medal they hang around your neck. It's the ghosts of the men you couldn't save. For this unbelievable bravery, John Basilone is recognized. He becomes a symbol, a national hero. And what does a nation do with a hero it can't afford to lose? They send him home. They put him on a stage to sell war bonds. But John Basilone isn't a symbol. He's a gunnery sergeant. His men, his real family, are still out there, fighting and dying in the Pacific. So what happens when they tell a man who refused to leave his friends behind that he now has to leave them all? John Basilone had a choice. He could stay home, a living legend, shaking hands and selling war bonds while the cheering crowds drowned out the memory of gunfire. He was safe, he was famous, and he gave it all up. The official story tells you it was patriotism, duty, honor. But here's the part that gets left out of the statues and the speeches. It was about guilt, the gnawing, hollow feeling of being celebrated while the men you trained with were still dying in the Pacific. He told a reporter, "They're getting killed, and I'm here." He saw the posters with his face on them. He heard the applause, and he felt like a fraud. Think about what that means. To be given everything you could ever want, and to feel nothing but the absence of your friends. The Marine Corps refused his request to return to combat. Twice. He was a more effective weapon on the home front, a symbol worth more than one man with a machine gun. His image sold millions in war bonds. But John pushed. He insisted until they finally relented. So he found himself on a black sand beach. Iwo Jima, February 19th, 1945. It was his first day back in the fight, and it would be his last. His unit was pinned down, trapped by a Japanese blockhouse raining down fire from a fortified position. He didn't hesitate. He never did. He worked his way around the flank, almost alone, and destroyed the position with grenades and demolition charges, clearing a path for his men. He died moments later from mortar shrapnel at the age of 28. He is the only enlisted Marine in the war to earn both the Medal of Honor and the Navy Cross. a hero by any definition. But think about his real choice. Not the one on the battlefield under fire, but the one made in the comfort and safety of home, to trade a long life of peace for a few more hours with his brothers. Was it a waste, or was it the only way he could truly live?